units and measurement, we have studied about units, measurement, SI units, how to measure the larger distances and also the shorter distances. Also we have studied about the errors. So in the previous class we have studied about errors, where we had basically classified errors to be in two types, that is the systematic errors and the random errors, where we classified the systematic errors to be of instrumental errors, the personal errors and the imperfection in the experimental technique, right? So here also we will be looking forward for another few types of errors, but before going to those errors, let us understand what is least count. So least count is defined to be as the smallest values that can be measured by a measuring instrument. So it is the smallest value which can be measured using a measuring instrument. So imagine that you have a scale of 10 centimeters, wherein if you have to find the value of first division, so first division becomes the very next division after the 0. So if you want to measure the value of that particular division, that value what you calculate is called to be as the least count. So let us see how we calculate this least count. Okay, so consider this to be a 10 centimeter scale, where there are total number of 10 units. So from here to here there are total number of 10 units, which is equal to 10 centimeter. So that means that the value of 1 unit will be equal to 1 centimeter, which is equal to 10 divisions. So we are supposed to find the value of this first division. So what we do is we will divide the entire unit, that is 1 unit, by its number of divisions. So here we have divided the entire 1 unit by the number of divisions, that is 10. So we will get the least count value to be as 0.1 centimeter. So this 0.1 centimeter becomes the least count of our scale, which is 10 centimeters long. So this least count is different for different instruments. So depending upon the length it is being measured in the SI units, its least count will also vary. Okay, so this is all about the least count. So next let us go to the other types of errors, where we will start with the absolute error. To understand this absolute error, let us consider an example. So imagine that you are performing an experiment where you are asked to take n number of values. So n number of values means it is countless values where you are continuously taking the reading. So now to understand absolute error, what we will do first is we will take the mean of those n number of values which you have taken the reading for. So let us assume that you have taken reading for A1, A2, A3 till AN. So in order to calculate the absolute error, so first you have to take the average of these values. So how do you calculate average? So average is taken here as average mean is equal to total the sum of all the trials you have performed to that of the number of trials you are doing. So here this sum is represented to be as A1, A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus and so on till AN divided by the number of trials. So here the number of trials you are doing is n. So we will consider the number of trials to be as n. Okay. So now as I said, A mean is the average of resultant values of the number of trials and n becomes the number of trials. Okay. So therefore the absolute error is given by delta A1 is equal to modulus of A mean minus A1, and absolute error delta A2 is given as modulus of A mean minus A2. So this represents the absolute error, where we define absolute error to be as the magnitude between the differences of the individual measured value to that of the true value of that particular quantity. Okay, so this is how we define the absolute error. So the next topic we have is the mean absolute error, where the formula for mean absolute error is given as delta A mean, which is equal to A1 plus A2 plus A3 up to the AN divided by number of trials, that is N. So the formula is represented in this form. So we define it to be as it is the arithmetic mean or the arithmetic sum of all the absolute errors. So here in this case, delta A1 also represents the absolute error of A1, where delta A2 represents the absolute error of A2, and delta AN represents the absolute error of AN. Okay, so this is about the mean absolute error. So next we have is the relative error, where the formula used to calculate the relative error is given as delta A mean divided by A mean. So delta A mean becomes the absolute error of this average value, or we can call it to be as the mean absolute error to that of the average value. Then we define it to be as the ratio of mean absolute error to that of the mean value. Okay, so the next error we have is the percentage error, where in simple form we can say that it is the relative error which is expressed in terms of percent. So you are just multiplying the relative error with the 100 so that you get the percentage error. So this is about the percentage error. So the next concept we have is the error of sum or difference. So how do we calculate the error of this sum or difference? So in order to understand this, let us consider an example where we'll take a rectangle. So we know that rectangle has got two things, that is the length and the breadth. Okay, so now see here, it is length and breadth. So we are talking about the sum or difference. So in order to calculate the sum of a rectangle, what we'll do is we will add up all the four sides. So we are adding here up all the four sides, that is sum, which I have represented it to be as x, will be equal to length plus breadth plus length plus breadth. So this will become 2L plus 2B. Again, where I am representing this 2L to be as A and 2B to be as capital B, where A and B represent the two physical quantities, that is length and breadth, and this sum or difference of error can be written as delta x is equal to delta A plus delta B. So we define this error of sum or difference to be as if a quantity x be expressed as a sum or difference of two different quantities A and B, then the error of sum of difference is given to be as delta x is equal to delta A plus or minus delta B. Here we have taken plus or minus because we are talking is about the sum or difference. So for that I have taken this to be as delta A plus or minus delta B. So next error we have is the error of product or error of quotient. It is like the same thing, error of sum or difference, where instead of sum or difference we are considering the product or the quotient. Okay, so the definition is again same, where instead of x I have taken the quantity to be as z, and as it is being expressed in terms of product or quantity of two different quantities, I have taken again it to be as A and B. The error of the product or quotient is written to be as, see, z, the product will be A dot B and the quotient will be in the form of A by B. So this we can write it to be as delta z by z is equal to delta A by A plus delta B by B. So this is called as the error of product or quotient. So far we have studied about the measurements and errors. So now let us look at the dimensions. So dimensions of physical quantity. So what are these dimensions of physical quantities? So these dimensions of physical quantities can be defined as the power raised to a given fundamental quantity in order to obtain the given physical quantity. So let me repeat, it is the power raised to the fundamental physical quantity to obtain the given physical quantity. So basically these dimensions are represented in the form of mass, length and the time. So these mass, length and time are the fundamental physical quantities, whereas we also had got the derived quantities which we will not be usually considering for this dimension analysis. Dimensions we can arrive at this dimensional formula by a concept called as dimensional analysis. So let us do that. So to do that, let us first consider an example of area where we will be arriving at dimensional formula for this area. Okay, so let us consider area where area is our physical quantity and its SI unit is meter square. And area's dimensional formula is written as m naught, L square and T naught. Okay, so these dimensional formula are always written in capital letters. Okay, so now let us arrive at this dimensional formula for area. So let us consider first to be the rectangle, where we know the area of rectangle consists length and breadth. So length, it is in the form of meters and breadth is also in the form of meters. So here our breadth also becomes length. So when you are multiplying L into L, you get this length square, where we will have the, for this dimensional formula, our L will have the power 2. So here we are not having any mass. We are not talking about any mass. This rectangular, we don't have anything as mass over here. So that becomes 0, and it is also not speaking about any time. So time also becomes 0. Therefore the formula for this rectangle, area of the rectangle, becomes in dimensional manner is m naught, L square, T naught. In the similar way, if we are considering a square, so square again we know area is side into side, so those sides are also in the form of length. So we have got L square, where again the mass is 0, the time is also 0. So again the dimensional formula for the area of a square becomes m naught, L square, T naught. In the similar manner, when we consider the example of a circle, we know that the area of a circle is given by pi r square. Here pi is the constant value, therefore it is somewhere negligible. Then we have radius. Again radius is in terms of length and meters. So r square can be written as length into length, which is L square, and we don't have any mass, or we are not talking about the time. So mass and time will become 0. Therefore the area for all the three, that is the rectangle, square and the circle, becomes m naught, L square, T naught. So this is the dimensional formula for area. In the similar manner, we have the dimensional formula for velocity, where we know that velocity SI unit is meters per second, that is it is represented by distance by time, where our distance is again in terms of length. So it becomes length by time, where we are taking this t to the numerator, then t turns to have the power -1. So the dimensional formula for this becomes velocity is m naught, we have a L, so L to the power of 1, and T, which is to the power of -1. So this becomes the dimensional formula for velocity. In the similar manner, when we talk about the work done, we know that work done or work is force into displacement. So we also again know that force is mass into acceleration, and we have is the displacement d. So again mass is written as it is m, Then we have acceleration, which is written as change of velocity with respect to time, that is v by t, and we have the displacement again written to be as it is. So here again we are rewriting this velocity, where we have arrived for velocity here to be as L by t. We are writing that velocity to be as L by t into the t which is present in the denominator into the displacement we have is again in terms of length, that length. So we will be getting as m L square t square. Again we are taking this t square to the numerator, we will get it to be as t to the power of minus 2. So the dimensional formula for this can be written as m naught L square t to the power of minus 2. In the same manner you can also arrive at different dimensional formulas for different physical quantities. So this is how you do dimensional analysis. So in previously we have seen the example for dimensional analysis, where we have analyzed the dimensional formula for different physical quantities. So now let us define what is this dimensional analysis. So dimensional analysis can be defined as analyzing any equation by the method of dimensions. So when we were looking at the examples, we saw that we were analyzing those given equations by their dimensions. So that is what this definition says. So the applications of this are, this dimensional analysis is used to check the correctness of the equation, then to derive the relationship between the other physical quantities. Okay, so next we have is the last concept of this unit called as the principle of homogeneity. So what does this principle of homogeneity says? It says that all the terms on both sides of the equation must have same dimensions. It is like the LHS and the RHS, whatever the equations we are using, they both must have same dimensions on both the sides. So for this, let us look at an example. Let us consider the equation x is equal to ut plus half at square. So here x is represented to be as the displacement. We know that u is the initial velocity, which is equal to again v, which is the final velocity, where velocities are represented in terms of displacement and time. So we have taken it to be as L by t. And acceleration is written in terms of v by t. That is, acceleration is nothing but the change of velocity with respect to time. So rewriting u and a in the above equation, we get the equation to be as this form, where the t in the numerator and denominator will get cancelled. Again we will neglect this 1 by 2 in order to obtain the equation same on LHS and RHS. We will neglect the constant terms in this form. So we will get the equation to be as x is equal to L plus v by t into t square. So we have x is equal to L plus, we are rewriting this value of v, where we know v is again L by t into the denominator t, and we have the t square. So we are cancelling this t square and t square, then we get x is equal to L plus L, where we know the dimensional formula for velocity for displacement to be as m naught L square t to the power of 0, which is equal to L plus L. So it is m naught L square t naught plus m naught L square t naught. So the equation will be m naught L square t naught, which is equal to m naught L square t naught plus m naught L square t naught. So LHS will be equal to RHS. In the similar way, let us also consider one more example. The equation half mv square is equal to mgh. So again we are neglecting the half, which is the constant value, and we'll be considering only mv square is equal to mgh. So m can be written as it is. Then velocity square, we know that velocity is L by t, where we are writing it to be as L by t whole square, which is equal to mass into g is acceleration due to gravity, rewritten as a, then h is height, which is in terms of length, so we are rewriting it to be as length. Then we'll get the equation to be as m, acceleration is again rewritten as v by t into L. So again in the next step you are rewriting the value of velocity to be as L by t, so that you will arrive at an equation of this form, that is m into L by t whole square, which is equal to m into L by t whole square. Therefore we will have the dimensional formula for the given equation to be as m naught L square t to the power of minus 2 on both sides. So this is called as the principle of homogeneity. So this part completes your chapter called as units and measurement.